2 p.m. If anyone is recording this meeting, could they please state their name and residential address?
James at 19 Gorham Street.
James, your last name?
L-I-G-M-A.
You shouldn't need a name, last name begin with a K.
I mean, yeah, but you'll be able to find me. This is to identify me, correct? I mean, this seems beside the point for this meeting, like out of order, right?
We just asked for you to state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, and you'll be able to identify me from that.
James, what's your last name, James?
K-R-I, excuse me, K-E-L-E-S. This does seem out of order, though. I mean, you'll be able to identify me. You have my address.
Sir, we ask for anyone recording any meetings to identify themselves with their name and their address.
Correct.
Correct. I'm just asking you to state your last name.
Yeah, but bringing up stuff seems sort of out of order, doesn't it?
What?
I can't understand.
You can't understand him? He's saying if it's out of order.
I mean, you asked for my name and I identified myself, but you're saying that I'm not identifying myself correctly?
You were spelling letters, and I said L, and your last name doesn't begin with an L. That's what I questioned.
It seems like kind of we're wasting everyone's time here.
I just asked you for your last
I
name.
gave you,
sir.
then why are you asking for it if you already know my last name?
You have to state it for the record.
I did.
You did not say your last name.
I spelled it out for you just now.
Just maybe hold on a second. Hey, Chad, what, you have it spelled one more time? I'm sorry.
K as in king,
Yes.
R-I-K-E-L-E-S. It feels like we're wasting 10
Thank
minutes
you.
every week
Thank you.
asking me this.
Get minutes. Oh,
If,
attendance.
the clerk could please call the roll.
Counselor Bradley MacArthur? Counselor Dunn? Present. Counselor Katz?
Present.
Counselor Bossi is absent, and Chairman LeBlanc.
Present.
Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If the clerk can call for the minutes.
Approval of minutes from 6/6/22. And those were from City Clerk.
Regular Secretary Council is done. We have a motion for approval of those minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The clerk could please call the first matter.
Well, they're tabled matters, but we do have people here from the MBTA.
All right. Councilor Dunn would like to take from the table the MBTA resolution. And Councilor Dunn would also like to make a motion to hear from all off-committee members, to include the maker of the resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The matter is now before us. Who is from the MBTA?
Yeah, so my name is Andrew McFarland. I'm the manager of Bus System Enhancements. I can spell my name for the record if that's
Please.
preferred. So Andrew McFarland, Andrew little spelling, and then McFarland, M-C-F-A-R-L-A-N-D.
Yes?
I'm the manager of Bus System Enhancements at the MBTA, and I'm joined by
My name is Robert Guptill, and my last name is spelled G-U-P-T-I-L-L. And I am the Director of Service Planning.
Could you state your residential or business address?
Yes, we both work at 45 High Street in Boston. The zip code, I don't know if you all need the zip code, but that's our place of business.
Thank you very much, and thank you for attending this evening. First off, I'll have Councilor Darcy speak.
Thank you very much. So my name is George Darcy. I'm on the City Council. I'm not a member of this Public Works Committee, but I am the author of the resolution that I submitted back a few months ago. And it was to potentially extend the MBTA Bus 73 from Waverly Square into Waltham, into North Waltham. As you may or may not know, North Waltham is underserved for public transportation. There's a big gap. The southern part of Waltham is served quite well, but the northern part of Waltham, there's virtually no public transportation. With the decision back in March of 2022 to remove the Tenerary wise, is that the right word?
Catenary?
Catenary, yeah.
Catenary wires, the overhead wires that power the 73 bus that goes from Harvard Square along Belmont Street, Trapella Road to Waverly Square. So now they're running a diesel, I believe, for like 2 years.
I believe it's like diesel hybrid, yeah.
A diesel hybrid for the next 2 years. So the main impediment for expanding the bus 73 route, I'm gonna stand up, 'cause it, was because of the lack of the overhead wires in North Waltham. And as you know, just the Trapella Road and Lexington Street intersection has about, within a quarter of a mile, probably has 5,000 people that live in various apartment buildings and complexes. And the primary route of people that are commuting is east-west. It's not north, sorry, yes, it's east-west, it's not north-south. And we do have the one bus which was converted, the 61 bus, I believe. But that goes, in its limited service, and it goes from parts of North Waltham into Central Waltham. Whereas a lot of the people that live in North Waltham actually want to go to Somerville, Cambridge, and Boston. So the thought was, and I've had it for many, many years, but because of the overhead wires, it was not feasible to extend the 73 bus from Waverly Square out to at least to Trapella Road and Lexington Street, potentially Smith Street and Trapella Road. I have a lot of buy-in, and I can get you the letters of support from all the high-tech companies along Winter Street and Wyman Street and Smith Street. There's a lot of new big companies there, but to explore the possibility of, even on a limited basis, or maybe as like a trial run, to expand that 73 bus from Waverly Square up through North Waltham along Trapella Road to either Lexington and Trapella, or even better would be to Smith and Trapella. So that's the purpose of, and I know it will be well used. I know in my heart, because I know all the people, I know where they work, and there's a lot of new development in that area, and I think it would be a boon. And it would help North Waltham, because it would reduce the traffic congestion of the cars. So it's kind of a multiple win here. So that's why I put the resolution in, and it's supported by the Ward 4 councilor, the Ward 1 councilor, and the Ward 2 councilor. And I don't want to impact the existing 61 bus, or at least that needs to be in the discussion, because we don't want to impact whatever little service that we have currently, but we definitely want more public transportation. And Waltham pays, I think, nearly $2 million each year to the state. And the people in North Waltham just do not feel like we're getting any representation for that $2 million. But so that's the extent of my, and I thank you so much for coming here tonight. I know it took a long time, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy that the board is entertaining this.
Thank you much, Counselor. With that said, I'm going to open it up to the questions and comments from councilors if they have any, and I'd also like to extend a welcome and thank you for attending this evening. Counselor Darcy is always fighting for those, for public transportation, and we all try to reduce traffic in the city and congestion and combustion, so thank you.
No, I was gonna, do I need to may I make a request to hear from off-committee members?
Councilor Dunn had done that, so if you have no further questions, I'll allow you to respond to Councilor, the maker of the resolution.
I can kind of start if you, and then, thank you so much for the interest and for inviting us to be here at this hearing tonight. So one of the things that I did want to let you all know about is that we are in the process of reconsidering our bus routes. We have an ongoing initiative called Bus Network Redesign. We actually, in the last few weeks, just put out a new draft map that has proposals that the MBTA is collecting feedback on right now about where we want to change and reconfigure and create new bus routes. I do want to be clear that this is a draft, but also B, we do not have the proposed extension of the 73 into North Waltham as it was just discussed and described. But I do want to just kind of be clear about what we are trying to do with this larger package of changes. It also just kind of provides some opportunity, like some upcoming times that the city can provide feedback into the process, since it is a draft process right now. So included in the proposal, and I shared some slides with the chair that kind of go into this a little bit more detail. But over the next 5 years, the MBTA is looking to increase bus service by 25%. That's a really unprecedented proposal to grow service. It's a huge opportunity for the region to have better transit service. And bus service is one of those services throughout the pandemic that really saw steady ridership in a lot of routes, because it still connects folks to where they need to go for work, for education, for essential services. So the MBTA is very committed to expanding it in the future. Included in this proposal too is we're looking to improve other elements of service, trying to look at where there's really high congestion points to put in bus lanes, trying to also improve other service elements like increasing the number of bus shelters, making sure that we have more expanded layover spaces so that we can better provide service. So I'll let Rob kind of just talk about some of the specifics that are included in this proposal, and then I can kind of tell you about some upcoming opportunities that the city can continue to weigh in addition to this hearing, so.
Yeah, and I'm certainly happy to talk about any specifics. Let me start off though talking about Trapello Road and your idea for extending the 73. So in our draft plan, and again, it is a draft plan, so there's plenty of opportunity to get feedback and revisit things. We have routes that are defined as high frequency routes. These are routes that would be 15 minutes or better, all day, every day, weekends, weekdays, so Saturdays, Sundays, from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. So a 20-hour span of service at 15 minutes or better. One of the routes that we are suggesting that would be denoted as a high frequency route would be Route 73. I think it is we have heard the proposal about extending the Route 73. It's an interesting question about whether the amount of service that belongs on Trapello Road is that high frequency level, 15 minutes or better, or it is perhaps something less. I think that is one of the questions that we can get the feedback that you are giving and think about that, and whether it is high frequency service or some other medium frequency or lower frequency. I think it would be interesting to have your feedback on what level of service, not just whether there should be service or not, but what frequency you would like to see. And then I would also like to just say that another route that in Waltham itself is identified as being high frequency is Route 70. This is a route that has pretty good frequency today, but we would like to see it become that high frequency, 15 minutes or better, all day, every day, 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. And this would operate from Waltham Center, and we'd actually extend the 70 in Cambridge all the way to Kendall, provide that one-seat ride to Kendall. So that's certainly one of the reasons that we are excited about this proposal here in Waltham, and actually leads to more service hours in Waltham than are currently provided today, because you're getting all that additional service on Saturday, on Sunday. You're getting that high frequency service on Route 70. There are other routes that, Route 70 is definitely an east-west type of service, and from central Waltham. There are other routes that go more north-south, like the Route 61 that you mentioned. We would propose an extension of Route 61, operating as it does currently today in North Waltham, but extending it down Moody Street and through down High Street, all the way down to Washington, and then over to Newton Corner. That would be a new route that we are proposing. We're also proposing a new route between Waltham and Riverside via Brandeis University to provide that connection where right now the 553 terminates at Brandeis University. That route would extend all the way down to Riverside and provide that connection from Brandeis to the Green Line. And then we would have a new route, a new connection that would operate between Riverside up to Waltham, to Bentley University, and then connecting to Waverly, trying to get some of that east-west connection, and then actually continuing from Waverly through Belmont and into Arlington would be the idea for this route. So kind of a circumferential connection connecting Arlington, Belmont, Waverly, Waltham, that would be a medium frequency route. That would be every 30 minutes or better. And then the last route that I should mention is the 505, operating much as it does today. We would that would be an express bus route that would operate between Waltham and downtown Boston. So that's a quick summary of the routes that we're proposing. Happy to go into any of those in more detail. And we certainly can share the draft map that you can look at and zoom in and zoom out. All this information is available online.
Yeah, just for the record, I shared a direct link to the map that gives an overview of all the proposals that Rob just mentioned to the chair. So that can be circulated to the committee members and others. That'd be much appreciated. Rob, do you want to maybe quickly talk about like some of the factors that went into how some of these service planning decisions were made for this proposal?
Sure. So we Mass DOT was able to collect a whole set of origin destination data based off of cell phone information. This was a data set that Mass DOT procured and then shared with the MBTA. And this allowed us to take a look at throughout the entire network, what sort of trip patterns people were making. This was a data set that was pre-pandemic, so it doesn't reflect the change in travel patterns that we've seen from the pandemic, and certainly some of those changes and that we've seen in the MBTA system because of the pandemic are reflected in some extent in this draft map. But a lot of the data that underlies it came from that origin destination information that we got. And working with that data, trying to put together where we saw these collections of trip patterns going to and from really lies at the basis of what we did for bus network redesign, and thinking about how some routes could be exactly the same as they are today because they are serving defined travel patterns. But then we saw new travel patterns that were emerging that we thought some new routes could serve.
And I think just to another layer on top of that is that we really wanted to also look at different social demographics. We know that our system is well utilized by people who really need transit. So we made a particularly strong effort to really prioritize the needs of what we defined as equity populations, which were largely low-income populations, people of color, seniors, people with disabilities, and people who do not have access to a car in their household. And so we want to make sure that we're making investments in areas where there are high concentrations of those populations. So that was really one of the guiding influences too of this planning process. We can pause for questions, and I can also just give a couple more points on just other opportunities for the city to weigh in as well.
Yeah, one of them, and Councilor Darcy can speak a little more on, he's a little more versed in it, is that I think what brought some of this around is it seems like we've been, the bus routes have been thinning out a little bit, and some of the east-west routes he's speaking of, and as you're mentioning, is we have Moody Street that is a north-south road. We have the green line right here, you can see this right across Common, that goes right into Boston, and some of the points, Main Street, so it depends where you are. If you're sort of on the Newton border, you might head to Riverside. If you're, from High Street down, you'd be probably heading to Moody. We do have the east-west route on Main Street, even further down when you get to the Gore Estate, and then Waverly Square is another connecting route that some of the north-south buses, get people there as a hub to get east and west, and then even further into Belmont, they have the T also. So, and I'll let Councilor Darcy touch on I believe it was some of the routes that were getting cut that sort of prompted some of this.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back, if you just take a look at the coverage map of Waltham, you'll see the whole northern section, with the exception of this 61 bus, it's just empty. And we have two 40Bs within the Trapello-Lexington intersection. We have the Windsor Village Apartments, I think there's 850 apartments, and many of them are seniors, low income. There's the sector of North Waltham has all different types of people. And their only possibility for public transportation is the 61 bus, which goes north-south to downtown Waltham. But many of these people want to go to Cambridge, Boston, Somerville is a new hub. And the benefit of going to Waverly Square is once you're in Waverly Square, you can ride the Fitchburg, the commuter rail into North Station, or you can just continue on the 73 bus to Harvard Square. So it's kind of a win-win. We used to have a bus that came from the Fernald, and that operated, and that used to bring people from Trapello Road down to Waverly Square, but that obviously has ceased to exist, and now that we've purchased the Fernald. So if you go up Trapello Road, there's going to be new development of some sort at the Fernald. There's the Gann Academy, which is a school. There's Bentley Dorms. There's Waltham Recreational Fields. There's the Meadow Green Nursing Home. There's Bishop's, Waltham Crossing, Wellington Crossing, sorry. Our Lady's Church, the Star Market and the 5,000 apartments at Trapello and Lexington, Hardy Pond, the residential neighbors of Glen Meadow West, Glen Meadow East, Eastview Park, Snow Ridge, Colonial Apartments, The Ridge. There's just like a massive congregation of apartments, and it just would make total sense. In fact, right now, Stearns Hill, I think they have a shuttle that takes the residents to what's the red line in Cambridge? To Alewife. So a lot of the companies have private buses. All the private condominium complexes, all the companies, they have private buses that go to Alewife. Whereas if we had public transportation, it would be so much better because it would be reliable. Once it's reliable, people will ride it. You know, that's how Los Angeles did away with their public transportation. They made it so unreliable that people just stopped riding it. But if it were reliable, it would really be used. I'm certain of it. I'm certain of it. And the Ward 2 residents would love it. The Ward 3 residents would love it. Ward 1, Gann Academy. It's just.
For the record, can you state the number of units? There's Beale Road, Winter Street, and Pond Street. I'm gonna guess we got 1,000 units coming online.
Yeah, so there's 3 40B projects that the council references, the chair references. One is on Pond Street, one is on 2nd Avenue, and the third is on Winter Street. And we are going to reach our safe harbor threshold within the next year. So Waltham is on the forefront of providing affordable housing, and we just want more attention from MassDOT and from MBTA. And I know you will see that ridership level go up, guaranteed. There's people, I see people working at the Meadow Green Nursing Home. You know, they're cooks, they're chefs, they have personal aides, and you can see them walking along Trapello Road towards Waverly Square, you know, with a bag and with their belongings. I see it every day, and it's like, they should be serviced. They are low-income workers that are working at a nursing home, a very big nursing home. And it's like, that's what public transportation should be for. It should help everyone. People with disabilities, people, low-income workers. And I think you're gonna find that Waltham is gonna be a good, North Waltham, it'll be a good route. So, and it's an easy thing just to do, just extend it up another. And put it on a trial for 3 months and then check the ridership levels, you know? I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Would there be, if they extended the ridership levels, would there be a, reach out component to this? Like if you just extended the bus route, how do people realize that, there is a new ridership route? Do they just learn it or see it or?
I mean, certainly whenever we do change routings, we provide public information about it. Certainly on our website, we, on something like this, if we ever, extended a route to a place that there wasn't service, we would do a more sustained public outreach, with our municipal partners and everything.
If you could communicate to the clerk of this committee, who could send it, we have City of Waltham as a social media coordinator. They could put the extensions, if it was to be a trial, they could put it on the website, just so people would know and get the messages through, well, disconnected with that through Facebook or what have you, so that might be helpful. And could you
Yeah, I just want to state for the record, though, we are not proposing a pilot for this, and with the opportunity that is at hand right now is to really rethink the network. So the process that Rob and I described earlier is really, I think these comments are really well taken and definitely things that we will look into. But we are really thinking about the holistic network of the system and how all those components work together. Just to be clear with how we're thinking about this process from our standpoint, we are collecting all this feedback now on the map. We'll be making some revisions to the map, but we are expecting to go to the MBTA Board of Directors in the fall of this year and to ask them for a vote of approval on a final map. Once that vote of approval is in hand, we will have a 5-year-long process to roll it out, and with each of those phases, regardless if it's this change or if it's changes to the 70 or the 61, we will be having a lot of communication to the city, to all of our municipal partners, service changing, and we'll have to have a lot of other communication. So we'll be looking to collaborate with the city on that for sure.
Point out one more item that Councilman from Ward 3 brought up is the Fernald, and hopefully within the next year to 2 years, that will be developed into something. It could be a component of some housing up there, it could be some recreation, it could be, it's a large parcel, and there's a variety of things that are proposed that it will be happening in a year, within, the next year or two. So I would keep that in mind as you're doing that. That will be another growth area there. And you, just for information for the committee, I know you had mentioned earlier hybrid buses. How is the MBTA heading towards, as far as, you see the old smelly buses with the black on the back of them, with smoke coming out of them, are they heading in any direction with any of this?
Yeah, so I can speak a little bit to this, and I can also send more information to the committee if you so like. So we have a fleet facilities program that is a major effort to really overhaul our bus garages and our maintenance facilities. The MBTA is very committed to our climate change goals and making sure that we are adapting our bus fleet and moving towards an electric fleet. So as a part of that, we are looking to overhaul all of our garages. We're in the process of rebuilding a garage in Quincy that will be allow us to be prepared for more buses, but also electric buses. We're also in the process of designing a new facility at Arbor Way in Boston by Barstool Station. And so those are like the first two, but we're also looking to phase that up through the rest of the system over the few years. So I know we were talking earlier about the catenary wires coming down earlier. So that is sort of a part of all the reshuffling of the garages essentially. But we are looking to move to an electric fleet. We know that public transportation is just more sustainable, but we want to make sure that it is as sustainable as it can be for the environment. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Through you. I was under the impression that the buses already were off of diesel, or most of them. Aren't they running on liquid natural gas or something different than diesel today?
they're Do you have any specifics on? I know there are some buses that operate on CNG and some are hybrid, and yeah.
Okay.
So we have, yeah, different ways of powering buses. We have compressed natural gas, we have diesel hybrid buses, we have all electric buses in the case of, in the Silver Line Tunnel.
I'm bringing that up, I wasn't planning to ask that, but it seems that it's been a long time since I've been behind an MBTA bus spewing diesel, and I'm sure there are some, but, I find that interesting. I'm a geeky transportation buff, so, you know, I collect pictures of the fishbowl buses, you know, I find it interesting. But I did have a couple questions, just commentary first, the enhancements that you were discussing is proposed enhancements to the south side, extending from Brandeis to Riverside and connecting to Riverside is exciting. The commuter rail over here has a lot of benefits, but schedule and ease of use isn't necessarily one of them, and expense too is difficult. So to Riverside, where trains run every 8 minutes or so, is a boon, especially if you're a college student at Brandeis who realizes once you get there, like, oh wait, we're not in Cambridge, how do we get there? So those are exciting. I don't think that the enhancements are necessarily, just to level set, are gonna replace the private shuttles that the businesses along 128 use. I think those are used as employee perks. So I think it can enhance it. It will enhance it in some ways for after hours and so, but I wouldn't see it as a complete replacement. My two questions, one is, how long, if you did a pilot program eventually, how long, or even if you started a service, how long does it take to determine what the ridership is going to be? Does it take 3 months, you know, for it to ramp up, or does it take a year? How would we know that it's successful or doomed to fail?
It's an interesting time right now, I think, to really for any route with changing ridership patterns and the pandemic and how we've seen ridership decline overall for the system. The MBTA, we're not typically in the business of pilots for bus route changes. When we make changes, we typically think that these are good changes and we want to implement them and give them all the due attention and resources that we feel like they deserve and make them as successful as possible. But we are regularly reviewing ridership, we're regularly reviewing how a route performs, and if we see that changes are not taking into effect, or there's a lot of public opposition, for example, we can revert. That's one of the nice things about the bus network, is that it is rather flexible. We made some changes most recently in 2019 as part of our Better Bus project that did not pass muster, essentially, and we reverted some of those changes. So while those aren't pilots per se, it does represent a level of flexibility that
So
we have.
how long do you give yourself, like, with the evaluation period, perhaps? Do you look at it after 3 months or after 6 months to see how it's performing? Do you wait a year, 2 years?
We would regularly review any sort of new routing that we're doing, but we certainly recognize that anything that's new takes some time to build up ridership.
My other question is, one of the reasons I support Councilor Darcy's resolution about bringing more service to Waltham is it increases, as he pointed out very well, and it increases the labor pool. And we have a lot of job opportunities out here, whether it's the retail, or you know, the support, if you will, of the apartments, or the lab spaces, and also an opportunity for the people that live there, the 5,000 plus people, to go work elsewhere. My question is though, how I don't expect you to know it, but do you have data that shows how long people are willing to travel on a bus to get to some place, such as a job? Are they, you know, I hear horror stories of I took this bus to this bus to this bus to the train to this bus, which might be more common than I thought. I guess I'm curious to know that, are people traveling on a bus on average for 30 minutes to a job? Are they on average taking multiple routes to get to a job? just to understand it, so if someone were to say to me, oh, this is crazy, who's gonna take a bus from Waltham to go to work in Dorchester? That it says, that I could say, well, as a matter of fact, the average rider who's going to work takes, is on the bus is willing to be on the bus for 45 minutes and take X number of changes. That's kind of what I'm trying to go for here. If there's any data that shows that.
It's a great question. Certainly, we collect data on the length of trip lengths that people take and can estimate how the duration of people's trips. I don't have that information off the top of my head, but we certainly have a wide range of trips that are across the MBTA system. There are people that travel from Salem into downtown Boston, people that travel very short distances as well. It's hard to know, to really typify what a given bus rider would be comfortable with.
Okay, that's
And I'll just add to that too, with this proposal that we described earlier, we're really trying to lengthen some bus routes just to make it so you don't have to take as many transfers for many routes. In some places, there are some trips that would require a transfer that might be didn't have it previously, but we're trying to make those in ways that are convenient for riders. But in general, we're trying to kind of lengthen some of our routes and think about like what's the overall network and how do people kind of make different transfer choices. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilor Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the presenters from MBTA. Were you aware of the proposed increase in population about to, in the next few years, about to hit Waltham? Is that part of your strategies to look at, different neighborhoods and decide whether or not you think ridership will improve or will be needed?
Oh, it is. I mean, we certainly have many conversations with our municipal partners about developments that are happening, and that certainly feeds what we foresee to be the opportunity to add service or to change service around. So I think we certainly are aware of this. I think you recognize that there is no service along Trapello Road that we're proposing for bus network redesign. So, we are open to hearing that feedback. We're open to getting all this input that you have about that development that's coming in, and we'll see what we can do.
And I'll just add to that too. One of the things that really inspires the initiative is that our bus network hasn't really been holistically updated in a long time. There are a lot of quarterly changes that happen that Rob and his team lead that just make usually smaller service adjustments. But in terms of like thinking about all the growth that has happened in the greater Boston region, not just in Waltham, but the entire region, we're really trying to think about how do we provide service for current riders, but also thinking about the future as well.
So one of the reasons why I would be not tempted to ride a bus is that it's one thing if you're in the subway because they come often, and if you miss one, like if you're coming down the stairs and you miss one, there'll be another one in 8 minutes or something. How meshed is everything so that if somebody, you don't want to be stuck in traffic and then realize that within 30 seconds you're going to miss your next connection, and then it's going to be another half hour for that. So like as far as Waltham is concerned, are things timed and meshed to maximize the use of the system? Or is that always a problem with public transit? It's just something that you can never?
Yeah, one thing, we're definitely thinking about that holistically, but one thing that we are trying to do very much so is in the proposal, we're looking to increase the amount of frequent service in Waltham. And the other thing that we really need to work with, not just Waltham, but other municipalities with, is to ensure that we have reliable service. That means really trying to make improvements to the roadway. So we've worked with a number of cities and towns on putting in bus lanes, making upgrades to traffic signals, making other sort of design changes on the ground. And a lot of these design changes can really help improve the service overall and make sure that we're staying on schedule essentially. getting to the transfers and making sure that you have good quality service. So that's one of the things that we would love to talk with the city and all of you about kind of going forward, is just trying to make sure that we are improving the experiences on the ground for riders so that they have that sort of good quality experience.
And I'll just add that when we look at the schedule and we see demand for transfers that happen, particularly like north, south, east, west, we can look and see how we can time those transfers. We do that today with the 61 and the 70, for example.
One last question, which is there an opportunity for the public, the ridership public or potential ridership public to be able to like, put us something in the suggestion box, or,
Yeah. So, let me just pull up my slides again, because I just want to give you all some specific dates and upcoming things to be aware of. So, like I mentioned earlier, we are in the midst of a public outreach process for this proposed draft plan. It is a draft, we will make changes, but we are collecting feedback actively between now and July 31st, so the next 5 to 6 weeks or so. We have a number of events coming up. I do want to bring the committee's attention to an upcoming meeting that is on June 28th, so next week. This is our kind of sub-regional meeting where we'll be talking about how these changes affect Waltham and a few other municipalities, adjacent municipalities. So that is on the evening of June 28th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. It's a virtual meeting. I'll make sure that the event posting is shared with the committee chair and that you all have access to it. But that is a great opportunity for the members of the public to weigh in. We have been pushing this out through all of our communication channels, through social media. We've had a number of press stories where this has been covered. We have had a number of public meetings to date, and we've also been doing a lot of public outreach. Rob and I and our colleagues have been running around talking to bus riders themselves. I just came from a session earlier today where I was talking to bus riders in the LMA about some different proposals there. So there are a lot of opportunities. There's also a great website for folks to be aware of. It's just mbta.com/BNRD, which stands for Bus Network Redesign. Again, that's mbta.com/BNRD. That is our project page, and there you can find all the information that Rob and I went into a lot more detail. There's some neighborhood booklets and city booklets where we say, here are all the accumulated changes for the city of Waltham or whichever city or town. But there's one there for the city of Waltham for sure. There's also a survey that folks can send, and I can also send you all the place to send written comment if you want to provide an official statement or something on behalf of this committee.
Colleen Bradley MacArthur, you have to, the roll call. You have to announce that you're present. Present. Thank you.
Council Darcy, inventive time, we have to wrap this up because we have another. Yes, do you have any final comments?
Yeah, no, I forgot one final thing. We have on Trapella Road, one of the 7 national archives in the United States, which houses historic documents and genealogical data and ship logs. It's just a wonderful resource, pre-pandemic, obviously, but it will be back in operation. And when you go to their website, they say take the train to Waverly, take the bus 73 to Waverly Square, and then get a cab. It's like, our treasure in North Waltham, the National Archives, no public transportation. So, thank you for coming. Thank you for hearing us. Look forward to working with you, and I thank the chair and the committee.
Thank you very much, it's quick, go right ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for not being here earlier to hear the presentation. I was able to attend a previous Better Bus session that you had a few weeks ago, and I know about the upcoming one on June 28th. I'm wondering, what are you looking to hear from riders specifically? Because I know on the call that I was on a few weeks ago, there was a lot of folks talking about disability access to get on buses and things like that. But what are some of the other things that you're looking to hear from people that are riding the bus?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We are definitely asking folks, do these proposed changes get them to where they need to go? We're also very curious to hear from folks if this would be good service, like the frequency that we're proposing for different routes, if this is the service that they need to really have the ease of access to get around the system as well. We're also looking to hear, of course, about other challenges that folks are experiencing on the ground. As a part of the rollout of this, we are looking to make improvements on the ground to make sure that, we don't have any accessibility issues at our bus stops and other service improvements. But Rob, anything else that you think would be, want to hear from folks?
Just another transit priority where people
Yeah.
think that there's opportunities that we could give buses priority to get that reliability. That's another thing that certainly any input that we have from people who are anxious to put that out as much as we can.
Great, and one other question with accessibility and access, have you done anything to improve ridership with folks that are riding bikes?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that the MBTA has been collaborating on, and this is an effort that I was actually involved in my previous job, which was a nonprofit called Livable Streets, is partnering with kind of advocacy groups to do some education about just how to use a bike, and also work with the kind of buses, trying to be aware of bus blind spots, trying to be aware of how to get your bike onto the actual cattle catcher in the front so you can ride if you want to, and then get off and take your bike and go wherever you need to go. So there are some training opportunities. We do a lot of outreach at different bike events where we have like an MBTA bus there with a trainer, a bus operator trainer, and they kind of let people know, it's an anxiety-inducing experience to try to get your bike on a bus when you're waiting for the bus, so it's a little bit easier to do that at like a festival or a block party or whatever. So we have a lot of opportunities like that. And if the city is interested in other things, we're happy to connect you all with different ways to promote that. So.
Great, yeah, I asked because we have a rail trail coming in.
Yeah.
sooner.
No, a wonderful rail trail out here. That sounds lovely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. So if you did have a survey, that you wanted to get some feedback.
Yep.
From the residents, as Councilor Bradley had stated, that if you go to the clerk, we could get it out on the city's website.
Yep, I will do that, if not tonight, by tomorrow morning, and make sure it gets out.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
We all appreciate it, and hopefully we can expand our ridership.
Yeah, thank you very much to the committee, and we appreciate your attention in this matter.
Thank you.
Councilor Dunn makes a motion to lay that matter back on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The next matter that is gonna come off the table, Councilor Dunn, will make that motion to take the matter from One Brook Road off the table?
Oh, yes, make a motion made to take Brunswick Road off the table, please.
You all heard the sense of the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. One Brook Road is in front of us now. Councilor Darcy again, and we'd like to make, Councilor Dunn would like to make a motion here from all off committee members.
Thank you.
Once again, and we have, Mr. Nguyen, and the chairman of the Conservation Commission.
We've got 9 minutes. We got a hard stop at 7, just to let you know.
So can you state your name and address correctly?
Yes, Philip Moser, Philip with one L, Moser, M-O-S-E-R. And my place of business is 119 Silver Street.
Thank you very much. Councilor Darcy,
Great,
go
so I'll
ahead.
be very short and quick. We have a good opportunity here for North Waltham. There's a parcel, a 1.3 acre parcel of land that's up for sale. The owner wants to sell the parcel. It's between Gravison Playground on Trapella Road and the neighborhood, the Hardy Pond neighborhood. It's mostly wetlands. It's in the 100-year floodplain. It has a little high part near Trapella Road that could be excavated to provide additional flood storage volume. The neighbors of Hardy Pond on Mead Road, Hardy Pond Road, Plant Road, they experience on an annual basis flooding in their basements. And I have the emails to support this, and I will provide that if needed. The issue was exacerbated when Green Acres deposited 2,500 cubic yards of additional fill against the proposed plan that we voted on, which means that amount of topography where stormwater used to live, and that equates to 500,000 gallons of stormwater. It means that that stormwater that comes down on Graverson Playground has to go somewhere. It's not gonna stay there. It goes to the east, which is where? The Hardy Pond neighborhood. Now, the chair of the Conservation Commission was very, very sharp and recognized this problem, and that's when he and the engineer jumped into action to build, to provide additional compensatory flood storage volume along Mokima in the wetlands at Mokima Ave. And I applaud them for that. They did a great job, and that will help. However, the neighbors on Hardy Pond neighborhood, it's a half a mile away, so all that stormwater is just pushing its way from Graverson Playground. And so this is an opportune time to potentially acquire that parcel. It's up for sale, the owner wants to sell it. It's 1.3 acres, and we could actually do what we did similar at Mokima Avenue, and actually excavate and provide additional flood storage volume on the northerly part. And this is just not a Ward 3 problem, because we know that the flooding at Linden Street, Waverly Oaks Road, is every 5 years, you know, there's 10 feet of water there. So we did an appraisal. I don't know if we can share, that's a question to the clerk. Are we allowed to share the appraisal with the engineer and the chair of the Conservation Commission, or to the chair? Because typically we have to go into executive session to discuss financial real estate transactions, but I pose as a question because I would like to share that with them.
As the chairman, I would say not at this time,
Not this time.
because they are welcome to join us in executive session.
Okay, perfect. So, just to them, we did an appraisal, I think, 2019. And only the members of the council are apprised of that appraisal. So, I'm gonna relinquish the floor and let the experts
Thank
speak.
you. And before you go, just to disclose, myself, Mr. Cass, did you attend the walkthrough?
Yes, and Councilman McCaffrey.
And Councilman Garza, we were there, and that's right, yeah, December. Yeah. So we attended the walkthrough and walked down the pipe, which I would imagine is an easement of some kind. And what struck me was, reminded me of a mangrove. So I would imagine, and I don't know about ownership, whether you can clean wetlands without ownership or not, but one of my thoughts to Councilor Darcy's point is, if it was cleaned out, would you gain flood storage capacity? Because we had this discussion in prior years. There's a parcel right next to the skating rink on Taunton Pond Road, that I think the person who owns the lot owns and didn't mind parceling that off. It's right, if you're facing the skating rink on Taunton Pond Road, it's right to the right. And they said, well, I would, give it, sell it to the city so that we don't have to pay taxes, and then they could maintain it and gain flood storage. And the engineer at the time didn't see the benefit to it. Although some of us in mind thought that flood capacity anywhere is a good thing, but you're the experts, I'll let you guys speak.
Do you want to speak first about the wetlands, and because this would obviously involve dredging of the wetland if you were to try to get some storage.
So first of all, I appreciate councilors taking interest in acquiring this parcel. There's a lot of interest from neighborhood groups and nonprofits. People walk the pipe all the time to get to the park. And a lot of people assume that both the left side and the right side of the pipe are conservation land. It's not an unreasonable assumption because it has all the characteristics that you would look for in conservation land. It's a large green space, it's a wooded wetland, nice ecosystem, it has connectivity to adjacent city-owned wetlands, and it's used by the public. So I support the acquisition of this parcel for conservation land. And Councilor Darcy, of course, as a longtime past chairman of the Conservation Commission, understands and correctly summarized the resource areas there. I would say that there is limited flood storage capability for improvement in the wetland part itself because it's already wet. So if you dig a hole, it'll just fill it with water. There won't be any additional capacity there to hold additional water when the rains come. But the upland portions that Councilor Darcy mentioned, there is some potential there, removing some of that, which is probably past urban fill. It's most of what's in the neighborhood that's how you used to find developable land, is you would dump some bricks and dirt and asphalt on it and build a house in what used to be wetlands. So I do think there's some potential there. In terms of flooding, I also want to mention that you can think about local stormwater flooding, but most of the time in the FEMA flood maps, we mostly think about flooding of larger watersheds. So in the case of Hardy Pond, it's how quickly does the watershed of the 900-acre watershed of Hardy Pond, how quickly does the water all concentrate down Hardy Pond, and then does it fill up and spill over into the surrounding wetlands and neighborhoods? So I guess the question would be, are we trying to prevent that particular wetland that is at One Brook Road from being wet at times, or are we trying to mitigate flooding of the entire Hardy Pond watershed and downstream in Chesterbrook and Lennon Street? So it's possible that by actually, perhaps there's, we could look at the feasibility of daylighting the stream. You know, we can walk and we have way too many streams that just disappear into pipes, never to be seen again. That one's kind of an interesting case because it's up above the ground, so I think it would require the city engineer's expertise and maybe some consultant study, but I think there's a lot of opportunities there. I recommend the city acquire it, and I'm sure we can together come up with ways to use it for the benefit of residents.
I haven't looked into this. I've looked into the area, Hardy Pond area a little bit. I haven't looked in this specific area. I did look at it a little bit. In terms of flood storage, I think as Phil said, I'm not sure how much additional flood storage you're going to get from this area. So I'm a little curious as to, like as Phil said, what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of because I'm not sure just buying this parcel and digging out, a small piece is gonna give us the big bang on the flood storage that we want out of the piece. It's a great conservation piece, and I'm sure there's some things we can do there, but in terms of solving the flooding, I really would like to look at it more and better understand what's happening there. It's sort of landlocked. There's no exit for the flow there, so, that pipe that's above ground is not in great shape, so there's holes in that pipe. And there's a lot of flow, I think, that comes down that pipe. So if that flow comes down the pipe and there's holes in the pipe, it's going into the wetland and causing flooding in the wetland. So we might wanna take a look at that pipe, maybe sealing that pipe would help. So,
If I can interrupt you there
Yeah.
for one moment, there's definitely holes in that pipe. When we walked it, you can see, and it's in the joints, and I don't know how much effect it has because it is above the water table currently, but you can see where the joints are, where the pipe, it's a socket fit, and you can see, you can look right in there.
Yeah, okay. So if we're trying to, I have no problem with the property and, as Phil said, it's a great piece of property for conservation. In terms of solving the flooding, I would like to look at it a little bit more, come up with some other recommendations.
Excellent, thank you very much. Clerk, the question is, as far as procedure goes, if Mr. Lynn was gonna take some time to evaluate the situation, should a committee member make a request for him to look into this a little further?
Yeah, if you want a response.
All right. If any committee member would like to make a request that Engineer Wynn look into the property a little further and try to evaluate the flood storage, I would say that. Councilor Dunn has made a request that Engineer Wynn look into this parcel a little further to see the benefits and what we can gain out of it for flood storage. Well heard, sense of the request? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You guys have it, Councilor Dunn, put that in writing, and Councilor Dunn, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Just on that request, is there a timing issue? Is there anybody else trying to purchase it or do anything else with that land? Because we're about to go into, pretty soon into summer session, and I just don't know whether or not we're going to rush it.
If we get it back, we do have a summer session. It could be,
Yeah,
if it was addressed by then, you want to put a date
maybe
of,
put a, date
date of
certain.
30 days?
Do you think that's reasonable to do the research?
I'll do 30 days, but, give me 60 days, it'll be better than 30 days, but I'll do the best I
Our
can.
summer meeting's in August, so.
August, so, 60 days.
Okay.
Take certain 60 days on the request. You've all heard a motion on the amendment of the request. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. We send that request in.
I just voted, and I just realized that I can't
Councilor
vote.
Councilor Adams.
You just made it louder.
I do that all the time.
Shannon, goes up.
You gotta deal with problems, we got a lot of stuff going on, so.
Okay.
Are they,
Um,
they're not standing here.
I don't know.
Councilor Dunn makes a motion to put that matter back on the table. Before
Thank you.
that, you all set?
I'm all set, thank you.
Councilor Dunn makes a motion to put that matter back on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Councilor Dunn, could you take the chair for one moment and then close the meeting out for me?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So, are you gonna speak on this?
Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So, is there any other matter, that, would wanna be taken off the table?
Yeah, I'd like to take the matter, Old Work stated May 10th, 2021 off the table, safety improvements for the Beaver Street crossing resolution.
All right, you've heard a sense of the request. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
All right,
so-
thank you. I'll try to make this quick. The Beaver Street crossing is fairly close to my house. I bike with my children to Warrendale Little League down there and back, and the railroad crossing, the sidewalks end, and everything just runs into the railroad tracks, and it's, I'd like to see some things addressed there. I know they were working on some of the designs, and I would like to make a request on this committee that we send, so there is, I think it's GW Moore right here, where one of the problems with this intersection is GW Moore dumps right out on the railroad tracks. We have a bridge and a culvert there. The culvert is fairly narrow, so there is no foot traffic over it. There is no real good gate coming from when you come from the southern side going east. The sidewalk runs pretty much into the railroad tracks. And then with the federal mandates to get the horns to stop, we put those guards up in the middle, so when you're on bike or pedestrian, you either walk on the railroad tracks that are not paved, where it's up and over, which with bicycles is not great at all. You know, you go out in the street, now the cars cannot go around you. So with all that said, I would like to make a request, and I'll put it in writing, that the traffic commission and/or mayor and traffic engineer take a second look at this. I know they're working on some evaluation. Take a second look at this to potentially move the GW Moore entrance further over, and/or move, and with that, move the gates back, the arms, and potentially move the wires, or have the arms at an angle so they don't hit the wires. And I'll put that request in writing.
You've heard a sense of the request, and would you just please repeat it again? You said you want the traffic commission?
Traffic commission, traffic engineer and/or mayor to reevaluate, potentially look at the engineering of, look at the engineering of this project to see if there is other options involving moving the wires so that the gates can be simply moved back, and/or moving GW Moore's entrance over.
You've all heard a sense of this motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? You guys have it.
And now I move to lay that matter back on the table.
Motion has been made to lay that matter back on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I accept that motion to adjourn. All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Okay.
That was now
Thank
7:07.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Oh, it's everything.
Yeah.
Thank you for filming.